Everyone, welcome back. Today we're diving into some hot gaming news surrounding the Assassin's Creed franchise and the controversy that's sparking major debates online. Grab your controllers and let's get into it. A month from release of Assassin's Creed Shadows and attacks on gamers are ramping up. Now an Assassin's Creed news account on X by the name of L3VI3 says they want to remove grifters from gaming completely. So let's unpack this. This hatred for gamers seems only to be getting worse over the last decade since Gamergate happened. With the resurgence of what some call Gamergate 2 about a year ago, the hit pieces against gamers continue to pile on, bashing us for critiquing games. As a gamer, it is insulting to be constantly talked down to by so many companies and so-called gaming news outlets for simply voicing legitimate criticisms about games. I get the developers want their games to be successful and want to protect them. Personally, I want games to come out and be good. I don't want buggy games like what happened with Cyberpunk 2077, bad gameplay, or forced DEI woke garbage like the trash fire that Dragon Age Veilguard was. I want games just to be great games with amazing content. I understand wanting to defend your game, but as a consumer and customer, I have every right to criticize a game for its bugs or elements I simply don't like. I enjoyed the Assassin's Creed franchise since Assassin's Creed 2 through Assassin's Creed Odyssey. But Ubisoft has strayed far from the series' roots of stealth and core concepts of being an assassin. I couldn't stand AC Valhalla or Mirage because when I tried to play them on a console, they completely changed the button configuration. It felt like they were trying to adapt a computer game to a controller, which in my opinion made the gameplay terrible and confusing. So I am not excited about AC Shadows at all. Ubisoft seems to have dropped the ball on this title, breaking basic historical accuracy with mistakes like using the wrong flag symbols or putting hip-hop music with traditional Japanese sounds behind Yasuke's combat. So this so-called news site declares it wants to remove grifters. This site is not run by any developers or officials, but it has a decent following, which means there will be people spreading this nonsense. The thing about posting to the internet publicly is that we are allowed to react to it. The account then declared there is no room in the Assassin's Creed community for racism, misogyny, hate, agitation, lies, or death threats. Everyone who doesn't stick to this will be blocked. It's time to reclaim gaming. Activists within the industry seem to think they have a stronghold on the gaming right now. However, I agree with the sentiment there is no room for racism, misogyny, hate, or any other behaviors listed. But are we really going to pretend that some of these developers don't hate the very customers they're supposed to be creating products for? Someone replied to this original post and they asked, what if there are people who don't like the fact that a company refuses to respect a culture and its history, but isn't trying to promote racism, misogyny, hate, etc.? They replied, if you say it in a normal way, it is fine. Okay, what's a normal way? So you're saying that if I don't say it the way you want me to say it, or if I say something you don't like, then I fall under that list? That's not how free speech works. Not even a month ago, Ubisoft CEO blamed gamers for Star Wars Outlaw failing, claiming our expectations are too high. Of course, my expectations are high when games cost anywhere from $70 to $200, depending on if you get the ultimate versions or the regular versions or whatever. We want products that work with seamless gameplay, engaging graphics, and captivating stories. If that makes my expectations too high, so be it. These companies keep pumping out products we don't like and then get angry when they lose money because people aren't buying them. Gamers have been asking for an Assassin's Creed set in Japan for years. They even teased the idea in the video The Death of Ezio after Assassin's Creed Revelations, where a young Japanese assassin came to Ezio for help. And ultimately, so at the center of this controversy is Assassin's Creed Shadows and its portrayal of Yasuke, a black samurai from feudal Japan. Ubisoft marketed Yasuke as a legendary samurai, but this claim is hotly debated. Japanese historian Yuichi Goza, if I said that right, has pointed out that historical evidence about Yasuke is extremely limited. Goza even speculated that Yasuke may have been more of a showpiece for Oda Nobunaga rather than a sword-wielding warrior Western artists might imagine. Ubisoft admitted that their portrayal of Yasuke is fictional. In an apology to the Japanese community, the company said, "The representation of Yasuke in our game is an illustration. While Yasuke is depicted as a samurai in Assassin's Creed Shadows, we acknowledge this matter is a matter of debate and discussion." So while the game's narrative uses Yasuke's mysterious backstory as a backdrop, it's clear Ubisoft is taking creative liberties. The controversy doesn't stop at Yasuke portrayal. The Japanese government and cultural commentators have criticized Ubisoft for several cultural missteps in Assassin's Creed Shadows. Remixing traditional Japanese music into hip hop for Yasuke's combat, which many felt disrespected the authenticity of Japanese culture. Making Yasuke the protagonist and depicting him killing Japanese people, which has been seen as tone deaf given the historical concept. Using Chinese architecture and Chinese language symbols and promotional materials for a game set in Japan, especially in feudal Japan. Mixing up the seasons. For example, inaccurately portraying the timing of rice farming and cherry blossom blooming. Ubisoft even had the audacity to include torii gates as a way to enter villages in the game, when in Japanese culture, torii gates are sacred and traditionally mark the entrance to Shinto shrines. Additionally, a promotional statue for the game featured a torii gate modeled after the one damaged during World War II, which is completely outside the game's historical time frame. These errors have drawn widespread criticism, with many feeling that Ubisoft's approach undermines the integrity of Japanese culture for the sake of flashy visuals. Ubisoft's executive producer Mark Alexis Cote, if I said that right, has openly stated that the company aims to go beyond what is accepted truth in their games. This philosophy is divisive. On one hand, it opens the door for creative storytelling. On the other, it risks alienating communities whose histories are being reinterpreted. Especially this beyond accepted truth approach has been criticized as an attempt to rewrite people's history, which raises concerns about cultural sensitivity and respect. Adding to this, Ubisoft's diversity and inclusion team has been accused of trying to reinterpret history with modern day philosophies, which many believe disrespects the contents and values of the time and culture being portrayed. Critics argue that this approach risks erasing the essence of historical events in favor of a narrative that aligns with contemporary ideals, further alienating audiences. Game director Charles Bonnet, I don't know if I said that right, added that Assassin's Creed Shadows would teach players about the Sengoku era, claiming the game depicts real historical figures and events. But how accurate can that really be when so many cultural inaccuracies have been flagged? Ubisoft's diversity and inclusion team is also a point of contention. Their vice president of global diversity, Rashid Sika, has described the team's mission as creating an inclusive gaming environment. But critics argue that this effort sometimes comes off as performative or overly political, which alienates players. On one hand, the push to block toxic behavior and foster inclusivity in gaming is admirable in some ways when it comes naturally. However, the execution often comes off as overly heavy-handed and forced. This becomes particularly problematic when nuanced critiques of cultural representation are dismissed outright as hate or grifting. While Ubisoft's storytelling, ambitions, and creative risks deserve recognition, they walk a fine line, striking the balance between historical accuracy and entertainment while respecting the culture. What do you think about this controversy? Is Ubisoft's approach to Yasuke and Assassin's Creed Shadows a creative leap or a disrespectful reimagining of history? How do you feel about the concept of grifters in gaming? Let me know in the comments below. If you like my content, as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. See you on the next adventure, and remember, game on.